This is a prayer for the soul of Michael Hamrati, who I met in his hometown of Darlington, town of Darlings, a couple of years ago, and I landed there. I had nowhere to stay, I had no plan, I had quite a lot of stuff. I was sat in a bus stop. And this man, he looked really old and ridiculously young at the same time. His spirit. And he asked me if I wanted to drink some horrible chemical cider with him. And so I did. And I told him my story, where I'd just come from. And he was pretty merry at this time, but he asked if I wanted to come back to his and stay at his for a little while. I said yes. And before I go any further, I just want to say that the last I heard, Michael Hamrati is in a care home, is in a sheltered housing facility being taken care of. He was 62, I believe, and an infant. When he lost his mother, he did not know how to operate in this life. So he couldn't take care of himself. He had friends and family around him. But what I witnessed was people were using his space as a DOS house and coming in, getting drunk, smoking crack. I didn't witness that, but I heard about it. 3 different cars were registered at his address, and he couldn't drive. He didn't have the capacity to drive. And so he helped me out. He provided food, company, shelter. And he did try to cross the line a few times when he was drunk. You don't need to know what he asked me or what, but let's just say I dictated the boundaries of our relationship. And I spent about 3 weeks living in Darlington with Michael Hamrati. And I was just as fascinated by him as he was by me. And I have a lot of love for his friends and family, the people that gathered around him to help out best they could while still allowing him to maintain his independence. But he had got into trouble with the police a few times after drinking, and, I helped him to, when I was able to open up and, be there with him. It stopped him from going out onto the streets and getting into mischief. Because he didn't even like drinking, he told me. And during our time together, he described his relationship with his parents and his childhood, and he had a tendency to get into this kind of like nervous, questioning, paranoid kind of energy where he just he couldn't understand people's motivations. Like, asking me why. I can hear him now, like, why would they do that then? It's like a little boy. And he had an appearance in court, something to do with his guardianship or something, I don't know. And I didn't go, and I'm glad, because I actually called the social services and tried to get them to intervene and come and get him the help that he needed, but because I believed that certain people had been doing certain things, and I didn't believe. I was put there for a reason. So on the day of his court hearing, I bathed him because he was not in the habit of bathing himself. And so, essentially, I stepped into the role of mother for that man for a short period of time. I showed him who he was and that he deserves to be loved. His toenails looked like he'd been living in a cave when I bathed him. And his shoes were always hurting him. In the Bible, it says, and whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me also. Obviously, everything is God and God is everything. There's a certain layer or level of society, and it's the majority. And the energy of that, the dynamic of that is one where everybody's out for themselves, climbing on top of each other, stabbing each other in the back just to get their needs met. When God said, we all shall have access to everything that we need, right? That is the intent of creation. I'm one of the lucky ones because I was forced to be on the bottom rung of society for a very long time where no help is available. I am also fortunate to be one of the ones who don't mind helping, or more importantly, the ones who realize that we should at least not harm. I fell in love with a 62-year-old man from Darlington named Michael John. No, that might not be his middle name, I can't remember. Hanratty. That happened. I fell in love with him. Not that I wanted to marry him. I just adored his innocence and childlike nature. And so, for a time that was allocated, I cared for him. And now he's receiving the care that he actually needs. And my presence activated a process. And I didn't even have to get involved with the councils and the... God works in mysterious ways. The reason we treat each other so poorly is that we treat ourselves so poorly. Our self-image, our self-talk, our self-worth, all to do with what we think about who we are. Nothing to do with who we actually are.